In the scorched silence of the high desert, a rancher cut down an Apache girl hanging from a cottonwood tree, and in doing so, signed his own death warrant. She wasn't just any girl. She was the blood of a chief, bound for a forced marriage, her brother already dead by outlaw hands. He didn't know her name. He only knew that leaving her there would make him no better than the men who put her up there. And now, every barrel in the territory is aimed at his door. They say he stole her. She says he saved her. But out here, the truth won't save you. Only the gun will. The Arizona wind blew dry. As a preacher's warning the morning Nathaniel McCord rode the north fence line. He'd been checking posts when he saw it, a shape dangling from the twisted limb of an old cottonwood. At first, he thought it a coyote kill. But as he rode closer, it wasn't a man swaying from that branch. It was a girl, barely more than 16, Apache by the look of her. Dark hair matted with dirt, feet bound tight with rawhide. A thick rope bit into her slender neck, her body limp as an empty sack. But then, movement. Her chest rose. Nathaniel's instincts screamed. Right away. Fast. This wasn't his fight. A white man with an Apache girl hanging near his land. That was a coffin carved before the wood was dry. Whoever left her here wanted to send a message. Getting involved meant signing his own death warrant. But then her eyes opened, and something inside him, buried since the fever took his wife and boy, stirred. He dropped from the saddle, boots pounding hardpan as he drew his knife. The rawhide sliced easy. The rope, less so. Each saw of the blade was a heartbeat against death. Then the fibers snapped. She collapsed into his arms. And somewhere in the canyon wind, someone was watching. She weighed almost nothing. Bones and bruises wrapped in buckskin and dried blood. Nathaniel held her like a broken bird. Her breath rasped, shallow and quick, like wind through pine needles. He felt the heat of her fever through his shirt. No time for doubt now. He slung her across the saddle, mounted behind, and turned south for the ranch house. The cottonwoods whispered as he rode past, like ghosts muttering warnings. The cabin squatted low against the desert brush, weather-beaten and lonely, much like its owner. Nathaniel kicked the door open and laid her gently on the bunk. He fetched water, wrapped her throat in soaked cloth, and fed a few drops between her lips. The rope burns were deep, raw. He worked carefully, hands steady but heart bucking like a wild colt. She stirred once, mouth parting. "Ate," she whispered. He didn't understand the word, but the fear behind it chilled him more than the wind outside. Then the horizon rumbled. At first, he thought it thunder, but the sound was steady, heavy, hoofbeats. Several. Nathaniel stepped onto the porch, rifle in hand. Dust rose along the ridge, 6 riders silhouetted against the sinking sun. Black hats. Black hearts. They didn't follow the road. They followed his tracks. And they were coming fast. The riders spread as they approached, circling wide like wolves around a campfire. Their leader broke off from the pack, dismounted slow, and stepped forward with the confidence of a man who'd carved more graves than cattle brands. Tall, lean. A long black duster trailed behind him like a funeral shroud. A cruel smile split his lips. "Nathaniel McCord," he called, voice smooth as creek stone. "You got something don't belong to you." The girl stirred inside. At the sound of his voice, she bolted upright, eyes wild with terror. Her whisper cracked through dry lips. Jace. So this was him. Jace. The man who'd left her hanging like butchered game. Nathaniel stepped off the porch, rifle raised but not aimed. "She was dying," he said coldly. "You left her to hang." "That was the idea," Jace replied, grin never touching his eyes. "Till you interrupted the lesson." His men chuckled, low and mean. One spat into the dirt. "Hand her over," Jace said, stepping closer, "and we'll be on our way. Quick, clean." Nathaniel's jaw tightened. Behind him the girl whispered, "Don't let them take me." That settled it. The rifle came up. "You want her," he said, voice like dry timber. "You'll have to take her." Jace's grin widened. He whistled once, sharp and shrill. And from the hills behind the ranch, more hoofbeats answered. Not 6. Not 10. A dozen more riders crested the ridge, rifles low and torches high. Tacoma hadn't come to negotiate. He'd come to burn. The first torch arced through the dusk like a comet, slamming into the barn's side in a bloom of flame. Dry hay caught fast, fire racing up the beams with hungry fingers. Nathaniel ducked back inside the cabin, slamming the door just as bullets ripped through the porch. The girl flinched, pressing into the corner. "They'll burn us out," she rasped. "Not before I make them bleed for every foot," Nathaniel growled. He slammed the bolt home on his Winchester and checked the chamber. 5 rounds. A 6th in the pipe. Outside, Jace's voice carried, clear and calm. "Last chance, rancher. Give her up. Or we torch everything you love." Nathaniel didn't answer. He kicked over the table, crouched behind it, and passed the girl his canteen. "Stay low. If they get through the door, don't hesitate." Smoke poured in through the shutters. Glass cracked from heat and impact as more bullets peppered the walls. A second torch hit the corral. Another rider took position on the shed roof. The fire wasn't the danger. It was the noose tightening in smoke and gunpowder. Then, through the chaos, the girl leaned in close, her breath shallow, her voice broken. "Jace killed my brother. We refused the marriage. He said he'd take what was owed." Nathaniel's blood froze. This wasn't just revenge. It was ransom. Politics. Power. The flames cast long, dancing shadows across the walls, flickering like spirits caught in battle. Nathaniel knelt by the girl, wiping soot from her brow as her words sank deeper than any bullet. "Your brother?" he asked quietly. "What happened?" She swallowed hard. "He was Chief's son, my brother heir. Jace came, promised alliance, trade, peace, but wanted me. My hand. My tribe said no." Her voice shook. "So he burned our village, killed my brother, took me, said, 'Without me, treaty dies.'" Nathaniel stared through the cracked shutter. The men outside weren't just bounty hunters or raiders. They were vultures come to pick clean the bones of a blood pact gone rotten. The girl met his eyes, and something fierce flared behind the fear. "My father, he comes, he follows. If I die here, war will come with him." Nathaniel felt the weight of it drop onto his shoulders like the sky itself. This wasn't just about one life, it was about hundreds. Maybe more. The girl wasn't just kin, she was a symbol. A keystone. And Jace knew it. Gunshots cracked again, peppering the front wall. A voice shouted from outside. "McCord, you're playing a fool's hand. That girl is Apache royalty. You really think her people will thank you for harboring her?" Nathaniel's jaw clenched. "I ain't doing this for thanks." Then a sound rose over the chaos. Drums. Not man-made, not close, but steady. From the distant hills, war drums pounded low and slow, echoing across the desert like a storm crawling toward them. Nathaniel looked out into the dark. "They're coming," the girl whispered. "My father rides, with warriors." The drums grew louder with each passing breath, a steady thump like the heartbeat of the land itself. Even Jace's men hesitated now, their torches flickering in hands that no longer seemed so sure. Nathaniel stepped onto the porch, smoke curling past his boots. He scanned the horizon, heart pounding to match the rhythm from the hills. The fire lit the night sky red, a warning flag against the stars. Then he saw them. Shadows on the ridge, at first just shapes, then horses, dozens, warriors on painted ponies, faces streaked with ochre and black, weapons gleaming beneath the moon. At their head rode a man tall and broad, wrapped in eagle feathers and silence. The girl pushed herself upright inside the cabin. Her voice broke with something between hope and dread. "My father!" Chief Chaska raised a hand, and his riders fanned out in a wide crescent, encircling the ranch like a noose made of flesh and fury. Jace backed a step, cursing low. "Well," he muttered. Didn't think he'd come this far south. The Apache war party didn't charge. They waited, watching, measuring. Then the chief's voice rolled across the distance, deep, clear, and laced with steel. Return, my daughter, or be buried beneath your lies. Nathaniel swallowed. He wasn't sure if those words were meant for Jace or for him. The air felt thick, like thunder waiting to break. Smoke coiled around the riders, their painted faces unreadable in the firelight. Chief Chaska sat his horse like a monument carved from rage and grief, unmoving, eyes locked on Nathaniel's porch. Inside, the girl stood, leaning on the wall for balance. Her legs trembled, but her voice didn't. I must go to him. Nathaniel stepped in front of the door. If you step out there alone, they might think I took you, that I harmed you. I must show them you did not. She reached for the latch with trembling fingers. No, Nathaniel said, voice low. If they think I'm the enemy, this ends in blood. Outside, Jace raised his arms, turning in a slow circle as if addressing both tribes and flames. You hear that, old man? He called to the chief. You ride all this way, but she's been sleeping under a white man's roof. Ask yourself why. The girl's jaw clenched. I go now, she said, and this time Nathaniel stepped aside. She stepped into the moonlight like a ghost come home. The Apache didn't move, not one. Then she spoke, loud, in her native tongue, arms raised toward her father. Nathaniel couldn't understand the words, but he saw the shift, the murmur, the questioning. Her father dismounted and walked to her, heavy with fear and fury. She fell into his arms. Nathaniel exhaled. But then the chief turned his eyes to the porch, to Nathaniel, and they were full of judgment. The girl spoke fast, voice low but sharp. Her hands moved with the urgency of truth too long buried. Chief Chaska listened, his face carved from stone, but his eyes never left Nathaniel. Jace watched from the edge, grinning like a fox in a henhouse. Go ahead, he called out. Tell your proud father how you ran, how you refused your duty. Tell him what you told me, how you'd rather hang than marry a man twice your age just to make peace. The girl flinched. That was it. The lie, or truth, Jace had held like a knife. A slow hum moved through the Apache ranks. Doubt, confusion. Nathaniel stepped forward, hands raised. She never asked for any of this. You strung her up like a trophy. She chose death over slavery, and I cut her down. That's all. Chief Chaska's voice came slow like mountains shifting. Did you touch her? Nathaniel's jaw set. I fed her, gave her water, my own bed. I asked for nothing. The chief stepped forward. Close now. His breath misted in the cool desert air. You should not have touched her at all. Behind him, warriors shifted. Bows creaked. Arrows knocked. Jace's smile widened. He sheltered a chief's daughter. That breaks blood law. Silence! The chief roared, turning on him. But the damage was done. The air was poison now, thick with suspicion. The girl stepped between them all. I ran, she said in English, because the treaty you want costs my body. And now every man stood on the edge of a cliff, and the rocks had started to fall. Silence stretched thin across the desert, every soul holding breath like it might stop the storm. The girl's words hung in the air, heavy as a coffin lid. Chief Chaska's face didn't change, but Nathaniel saw it, the crack behind the calm, pride and pain, twisting like roots. Jace, standing just beyond the fire's edge, chuckled low. Well now, he said, eyes gleaming, truth always was a messy thing. Guess the treaty's dead either way. No one moved. Then, crack, a rifle fired from the shadows. One of Jace's men collapsed off his horse, blood spraying the dust. Panic exploded like thunder. Horses reared, warriors shouted. Rifles came up. Another shot. Then, another. And the desert roared to life. Nathaniel dove behind the trough as bullets ripped through the air. Apache war cries rose sharp and wild, cutting through the screams. Arrows hissed from the dark, striking riders from their saddles. Flames from the still-burning barn lit the chaos in hellish red. The girl cried out. Nathaniel grabbed her, pulling her behind the water trough, just as a bullet chewed through the post beside her head. "They're trying to take me," she gasped. "Jace, he's moving!" Through the smoke and fire, Nathaniel caught a glimpse of that black duster. Jace, slipping through the shadows with two men flanking him, heading not toward the fight, but the horses. "They're trying to run," Nathaniel snarled. But if Jace got away with her, this wouldn't be a battle. It'd be a war. Nathaniel shoved the girl behind the water barrel. "Stay here. If the sky falls, don't move." She grabbed his arm. "He'll kill you." He loaded a fresh shell into his Colt. "He'll have to catch me first." Smoke clung to the ground like fog. Nathaniel moved low, dodging between scorched wagons and splintered fences. Screams rose and fell in the distance. The war drums had gone silent. But now, the rifles spoke louder. He found the blood trail behind the corral. Fresh, a smear in the dirt, leading toward the old stone well. The bucket was shattered. The ropes snapped. Hoofprints. 3 horses, one struggling. Then a sound. Snort of a mount in the dark. Nathaniel dropped, eyes scanning the shadows. And there, Jace, hauling the girl across a saddle, one of his men holding her arms down. Nathaniel's gut twisted. He raised his pistol and froze as something cold and hard pressed against the back of his neck. A second man. Close. Too close. "Drop it, rancher," came a voice, smooth and low. "Jace ain't the only wolf hunting tonight." Nathaniel's fingers slackened. The Colt hit the dirt. "Smart," said the voice. "Now turn around nice and slow." He turned, and the face that met him dragged a ghost from the past. Tall, broad-shouldered, black coat and a grin like a coffin lid. "Clay, Mercer," Nathaniel rasped. The man smiled. "Heard you still had a soft spot for lost causes." And now, Nathaniel McCord stood unarmed, surrounded by enemies, watching the girl he tried to save disappear into the dark. Clay Mercer's pistol pressed steady against Nathaniel's neck, but his voice held the lazy drawl of a man who enjoyed the squeeze before the shot. "You look surprised," he said. "Thought I was vulture bones out in Dead Man's Pass, didn't you?" "I saw you bleed out," Nathaniel growled. "In Santa Fe, over a card game and a silver lie," Mercer chuckled. "Turns out lies don't bleed near as easy as men." The girl, struggling on the saddle ahead, shouted something in Apache, muffled fast by Jace's man. Nathaniel's fists clenched. "What do you want, Mercer?" "Same as everyone else," he said, circling. "The girl, but not for vengeance, or marriage, or treaties." He paused, eyes narrowing. "She's the last piece in a deal bigger than this dirt-flecked territory. Rail lines, army gold, land deeds signed in smoke." Nathaniel stared. "You're working with Jace?" Mercer spat. "That half-breed cut me out. Took what we found in Santa Fe and ran. He thinks if he delivers the girl, he gets the land." Nathaniel's blood went cold. "So what? You finish the job? Trade her back?" "Not quite." Mercer stepped closer, pistol still raised. "I collect what's mine. And I use her to start a fire nobody forgets." Nathaniel met his eyes, cold steel in his own. "You burn this treaty, this whole territory goes up." Mercer smiled. "That's the idea." And behind them, the girl slipped a knife from her sleeve. The girl's blade flashed, small but sharp. She slashed the reins, binding her wrists, and kicked backward, catching Jace's man in the ribs. He howled, toppling from the saddle. The horse reared, and in the chaos, she slid free, hitting the dirt hard and rolling. Nathaniel moved first. With Mercer's attention torn, he lunged, grabbing the barrel of the pistol and twisting. The gun fired wide. They slammed into the dust, fists flying, teeth gritted. Mercer was strong, fueled by hate, but Nathaniel fought like a man with everything to lose. A knee to the gut, an elbow to the jaw. Mercer spat blood and laughed. "You're too late, McCord. Even if you kill me, you lose." Nathaniel didn't answer. He cracked him across the face, grabbed his Colt from the dirt, and turned. The girl was limping toward the rocks, clutching her side. Jace was already in the saddle, galloping for Devil's Pass, his last escape. Nathaniel helped the girl to her feet. "Can you ride?" She nodded, grimacing. "I'll hold on." They mounted Mercer's horse and rode like the devil was snapping at their heels. The pass loomed ahead, a jagged canyon cut through black rock, the kind of place where sunlight died before noon, the kind of place you didn't ride into without expecting ghosts. But Nathaniel didn't hesitate. Jace was ahead, and he wasn't getting out with her. Not alive. Devil's Pass swallowed them in shadow. The cliffs rose like black fangs, the trail winding narrow and treacherous. Nathaniel's horse panted hard, hooves striking stone like war drums. Behind them, only the desert wind, and, somewhere, Mercer's broken dreams scattered in the dust. Ahead, dust rose. Jace. Nathaniel urged the horse faster, the girl clutching his waist. Her breath came ragged, each jolt a stab through her bruised ribs. The canyon narrowed. He saw Jace dismounting, dragging a rifle from his saddle. The bastard meant to hold the pass, make it a final stand. Nathaniel dropped from the saddle behind a boulder, pushing the girl low. "Stay down. Don't move." "I can fight," she whispered. He shook his head. "You already did." Jace's voice rang out, echoing off stone. "You got grit, rancher. I'll give you that. But grit don't stop bullets." Nathaniel stepped into the open, Colt raised. "Only takes one to shut your mouth." Jace fired. The shot cracked past Nathaniel's ear, splintering rock. Nathaniel dove, rolled, returned fire. Dust exploded near Jace's boots. Then silence. A game of inches. Of nerve. Then, a shadow moved behind Jace. Feathers. War paint. Chief Chaska. He'd tracked them. Jace turned, eyes wide. Too late. The chief lunged, blade flashing. Blood met dust. And the pass fell quiet once more. The sun dipped low, casting the canyon in crimson and gold. Nathaniel stood over Jace's still body, chest heaving, dust and blood streaking his coat. The girl leaned against a stone, arms wrapped around herself, staring at her father. Chief Chaska wiped his blade clean on Jace's coat, eyes unreadable. "You tracked us," Nathaniel said. "I followed the smoke," the chief replied, "and my daughter's heart." Behind them, Apache warriors emerged from the rocks, silent, spectral, no shouts, no triumph, only solemn judgment. The chief turned to Nathaniel. "You took my daughter into your home, into your arms. That alone could demand your life." "I didn't ask for her," Nathaniel said evenly. "But I didn't turn her away." "She carries the future of our people," Chaska said. "What she chooses echoes beyond blood." The girl stepped forward. "He never touched me, never asked for anything. He saved me." The chief's jaw flexed. "She ran from an agreement, from duty. Now many are dead. That burden is not light." Nathaniel met his gaze. "Then take my life, if it saves hers?" A long silence. Then the chief spoke, voice like distant thunder. "No, you will live, but not as you were." He turned to his warriors. "This man belongs to us now. Let it be known. His life is ours. Debt paid in loyalty." Nathaniel's breath caught. "You're making me Apache?" The chief's eyes burned. "I am making you responsible." They buried Jace beneath the rocks where the canyon swallowed light. No words, no prayers. Just stone upon stone. And the silence of men who had seen too much death to mourn the right way anymore. Nathaniel stood at the ridge, his coat torn, his hands stained with smoke and dirt. Below, the remains of his ranch smoldered, charred beams, shattered glass, ash drifting like gray snow. He didn't look back. Aylin stepped beside him, wrapped in her father's blanket, her face still shadowed by the fire they'd passed through. But in her eyes was strength, old as the mountains, fierce as her blood. "They'll talk about this day," she said softly. "Some will say you stole me. Others will say you saved me." Nathaniel nodded. "Let them say what they want. I know the truth. So do you." Behind them, Chief Chaska approached on foot. He said nothing at first, only looked out over the land where his daughter had nearly died, where peace had nearly burned with her. "This place," the chief said at last, "is stained by fire and blood. But it does not have to stay that way." He held out a hand. Nathaniel took it. "I can't be Apache," he said quietly. "No," the chief replied. "But you can be a friend." Aylin smiled. "And maybe, someday, something more." The morning sun broke over the canyon wall, light spilling across the desert, like hope after a storm. Nathaniel McCord took a breath. The road ahead was uncertain. The past couldn't be changed. But sometimes, a man could still choose the kind of story he left behind, and his was far from over.